I slapped my stepsister for speaking disrespectfully about my late mother. I never imagined that later that night, my boyfriend would slap me 100 times to avenge her. As he hit me, his friend seemed puzzled. "You've been with Lilianna Caide for 3 years. I thought you were truly deeply in love with her, but I didn't expect you to be so cruel today." My boyfriend's mouth twisted into a sneer. If it weren't necessary to help Eva reclaim her position in the Caide family, I'd be disgusted to stay with Lilianna for even another second. Lilianna has been using her status as the heir to bully Eva. Naturally, I must teach her a lesson. My heart sank. It became clear that he had only gotten close to me in order to get closer to my stepsister. With a bitter smile, I called my biological father. "I'll fulfill the marriage contract for your illegitimate daughter and marry the sickly son of the Hatchet family to bring good fortune for him." Hello, and welcome back to Bibliophile Princess channel. Let's the story begin. My father, John Caide, his eyes brightened with excitement as he asked, "Lilianna, are you serious? I saw you pursuing your male secretary for 3 years. I thought you'd never marry anyone but him." I ignored his comment and replied with an even colder tone, "The condition is that you transfer 50% of the company's shares to me." He hesitated, his voice turning icy. "Lilianna, you're asking too much." I turned to leave. "Wait," he called after me. "I agree, but no one else can know about this." My heart ached deeply. My father was cunning and driven by profit, yet he was willing to give away 50% of the shares to help his favored illegitimate daughter out of her troubles. However, he showed no concern for sacrificing the happiness of his other daughter. "All right, it's a deal," I managed to say before walking away. Recalling his earlier skepticism, I chuckled at myself. For years, I believed I couldn't live without Jacob Relf. But last night, while at a drinking party with my friends, I unexpectedly discovered that Jacob was in the next private room. As I debated whether to greet him, I overheard his conversation with a friend. "Jacob, are you hooked on pretending to be a bodyguard? You're from one of the most influential families in Boston, yet you work daily. Is Lilianna really that captivating?" Jacob's lips turned up slightly at the corners. "Does she even deserve it? If it weren't for wanting to get closer to Eva, I wouldn't have stayed with Lilianna for so long." He continued, "Eva's situation is rather sensitive. The stubborn old man in my family would never approve of me marrying Eva. But once I help Eva take Lilianna's place in the Caide family, I'll leave Lilianna and marry Eva in style." His friend was taken aback. "You're really playing the long game. But isn't Lilianna beautiful and devoted to you? Aren't you even a little tempted?" Jacob replied nonchalantly, "If you like her, I can send you a video of her in bed. To me, she isn't worthy of carrying Eva's parasol." After his friend left, Jacob remained alone in the private room. His vision was hazy from the alcohol as he stared at the enlarged photo of Eva on the screen, one hand reaching down to pleasure himself. "Babe, my Eva, babe, I miss you so much." It hit me like a bolt of lightning. At that moment, I realized why Jacob had been indifferent to me despite my pursuit over the past 3 years. He had always kept a certain distance, never allowing me to get too close, yet not completely pushing me away. Whether it was me taking the initiative to shower him with gifts or trying to win his affection, or when I traveled to Indiana, going out of my way to find a lucky charm and hanging something like a dream catcher for him, he would just quietly maintain his distance. He would politely accept the gifts, say thank you, but then set them aside, showing no further interest. I used to think Jacob was just naturally aloof and didn't like being close to others. Now I finally understand that he doesn't like me at all. The occasional kindness he showed was just a way to keep me engaged, giving him a chance to connect with Eva. After everyone had left, I went into the private room where he had been. I tortured myself by replaying the scenes I had witnessed repeatedly in my mind. After sitting there quietly for a long time, the duty manager approached me hesitantly and asked if I needed any assistance. I shook my head and then called John. "You don't want Eva to end up a widow after marrying into the Hatchet family, yet you also don't want to miss the opportunity to ally with them, right?" "I'm willing to marry into the Hatchet family. Even though the Hatchet family was far away now, the engagement gifts arrived promptly. They transferred $2 million to my bank account and sent 100 kilograms of gold bars and jewelry. Along with these, there were numerous new seasonal items from luxury brands. The butler who delivered the gifts watched as I received them personally. He politely explained, "Mr. Hatchet hasn't been feeling well lately and can't fly back from abroad. Once me Liligung marries and moves there, Mr. Hatchet will certainly order the compensation." John assured him he understood and saw the butler out. After the Hatchet family representatives left, John asked, puzzled, "Didn't the Hatchet family say they wouldn't send any gifts for this marriage alliance? Why have they sent so much now?" I looked over the items and replied with a touch of sarcasm, "Who knows? Maybe they just can't bear the thought of me being half a widow after getting married and want to compensate me in advance." Although that's what was said, both John and I were fully aware of the truth. Despite the poor health of the Hatchet family's second son, the Hatchet family's power and influence made it clear that the Caide family was overreaching by pursuing this marriage. John forced a smile and discussed the numerous advantages of marrying into the Hatchet family. I looked at him with a gloomy expression. If there are so many benefits, why not have your illegitimate daughter marry into the Hatchet family instead? I suggested. After all, I've given her so much since she was a child. I wouldn't mind passing up this opportunity either. John merely smiled, saying it was just a joke, and then left, rubbing his nose. Just as I finished arranging the items sent by the Hatchet family, Eva returned, with Jacob trailing behind her. Eva approached me with a smile. "This book had been added on your bookshelf." "Lilianna, I just had a drink with my friends at the gathering and had to ask Jacob to pick me up. You don't mind, right?" I sidestepped her extended hand. "Jacob doesn't mind, so why should I? You could even make him your secretary if you want." Jacob frowned slightly, but stayed silent, which is how he looks when he's upset. Eva's eyes welled up with tears. "Lilianna, are you mad at me?" she asked. Suddenly, she grabbed my hand and slapped her own face. "Lilianna, please don't be angry. Will you feel better if you hit me?" She began to cry, resembling a fragile flower in the rain. John quickly stepped forward to shield Eva. "Lilianna, how could you hit your sister? Are you even acting like an older sister?" I caught a glimpse of Jacob from the corner of my eye. He lowered his eyes, and his face took on a somber look. He clenched his fists slightly, but kept silent, hiding his feelings. I smirked and said, "My mother only gave birth to me, my sole daughter. How could I have a sister? Are you insulting my mother by calling the daughter of my father's mistress my sister? Lilianna, must you be so harsh? My mother and I love Dad just as much as you do." Eva clutched her chest, her crying grating on my nerves. She sobbed, her voice laced with misery. "I've already lost my mother. Are you really going to make me leave and lose my father too?" Noticing my frown, John quickly led Eva away, concern etched on his face. Finally, I had some peace and quiet. However, Jacob immediately interjected, "Ms. Eva is also a victim. There's no need for such harsh words." My anger turned into bitter laughter. At 9 years old, my father brought Eva and her mother into our home, shattering my belief in our family's happiness as mere fantasy. My pregnant mother, disheartened, left and tragically died in a car accident, along with her unborn child. Despite knowing this, Jacob called Eva a victim. "Why are you laughing?" he asked. I arched an eyebrow, looking down on him. "If you pity her, go comfort her. Why are you still here?" Jacob's face was stern, his lips pressed tightly together. He was likely irritated by my sarcasm. "Doesn't it bother you?" Jacob's eyes momentarily showed surprise. In the past, any hint of favoritism he showed toward Eva would send me into a furious rage. I was confident in his feelings for me and believed he helped Eva out of sheer kindness. I thought he would have done the same for anyone. However, I've come to understand that I was merely a tool for him to be near Eva. This realization has sobered me, and I left without even glancing back at Jacob. After leaving the Caide's villa, I drove alone toward my villa on the city's outskirts. There was a secluded stretch along the way where the streetlights were faint at night, so I concentrated on the road. Suddenly, a large SUV sped toward me, forcing me to halt. Immediately afterward, several masked and muscular men emerged from the vehicle and knocked on my car window. My heart raced, and I quickly dialed the police. In such an uncertain situation, I dared not open the door. Seeing my hesitation, they grabbed a hammer and began smashing the car door and window glass. Before my emergency call could connect, they snatched my phone and tossed it aside. I let out a scream as a sack was thrown over my head, and I was struck hard on the neck, causing me to lose consciousness. When I regained my senses, I found myself in an old, run-down factory. My hands and feet were tightly bound, and I was hanging high above the ground. Someone ordered, "Bring her down." Abruptly, I was lowered. With a rough cloth gagging me, I could only mumble indistinctly. Once the cloth was removed, I hoped to understand their intentions and negotiate a way to escape. However, before I could speak, a large man struck me hard, leaving me dazed. The masked man said, "Miss Caide, we apologize. We're just carrying out a job for the person who hired us. You happened to cross the wrong individual." He continued, "Relay a message for our employer. If you cooperate, after enduring 100 slaps, you'll be allowed to leave, but if you scream or involve the police, he promises you'll constantly live under the threat of danger." Tears filled my eyes as a mix of pain and fear gripped me. The man pointed to the surveillance camera above. "Sir, can we begin?" A voice from the other end responded. A wave of shock hit me, leaving me motionless. Even from just one word, I knew it was Jacob's voice. He had me kidnapped to make me endure 100 slaps, all to avenge Eva for the incident that had just occurred. I bit down on the rough cloth and sobbed toward the camera. "Just because Eva forced me to slap her, you want me to take 100 slaps in return?" He couldn't hear me well, but I knew he was deeply in love with Eva. He couldn't stand to see her suffer even the smallest injustice and would do anything to remove any obstacles for her. The surveillance camera had gone silent. Slap after slap hit my face, causing the initial swelling of my cheeks to eventually turn into a numbing pain. My face and mouth were smeared with bright red blood. In my daze, I recalled the day I first encountered Jacob. He had come for an interview to become my secretary. With his broad shoulders, slender waist, and tall, upright posture, he exuded seriousness, yet his eyes were comforting. He assured me with confidence, "Miss Caide, I will be your most capable secretary." From that moment, I was smitten with him. I showered him with gifts, spent lavishly on him, and brought him to significant events. In Boston, rumors spread that the Caide family's Red Rose was infatuated with her male assistant. I never quashed those rumors. I wanted Jacob to understand that my love was fervent and unapologetic. Even if he seemed as distant as an ice prince, I believed I could win his heart. But now, my heart was heavy with bitterness. I had misjudged him. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in the hospital. My jaw was stabilized with medical equipment, and my head and face were swathed in bandages. Jacob stood by the window, his back turned to me. I glanced at the figure that had haunted my dreams and gave a wry smile. Jacob heard the noise and turned around, his voice emotionless. "Miss Caide, you're safe now." My ironic smile didn't reach my eyes. "Is this what you wanted to see?" I asked. Jacob's eyes flickered slightly. Just as he was about to speak, Eva's voice interrupted. She wore a pure white dress, resembling an unattractive white moth shedding its powder. "Lilianna, I heard you were hurt?" she said with apparent concern, though both of us knew she was only there to revel in my misfortune. I shot them a scornful look and curtly ordered them to leave. However, Eva stood her ground. With a sympathetic tone, she said, "Lilianna, I understand that being sick can put you in a bad mood. I won't take it personally." She added, "I brought you some chicken soup," holding up the thermos. She unscrewed the lid, ready to serve me the soup. I doubted her intentions and didn't believe She was there out of genuine concern. When I pushed her away with force, I aggravated my wounds, causing pain to surge through my body. In the next moment, the hot chicken soup from the thermos spilled all over my body and hands. I instinctively screamed in response. Eva shrank back as if she were scared. "I'm sorry, Lilianna. It was because you kept grabbing and pushing that I lost my hold on the chicken soup. Please don't hit me, Lilianna. I'm begging you," she pleaded, suddenly dropping to her knees. If it had been chicken soup brought from home, it wouldn't have been so hot. The only explanation was that she had purposely brought it to burn me. I was in too much pain to muster the strength to confront her. I glared at Jacob, full of resentment. "Call the doctor," I demanded. Jacob stood up right away, but instead of summoning the doctor, he lifted Eva into his arms. "Don't be scared, Ms. Eva. Stand up quickly. She won't dare to hit you. With me here, no one will dare to bully you." I watched the scene unfold in disbelief. In the past, despite Jacob's fondness for Eva, he had always respected boundaries around me. But now, my hands were blistering and my entire body was racked with pain. Yet there he was, softly murmuring reassurances to Eva, telling her not to worry. I grabbed the empty thermos and hurled it at the pair, who were holding each other tightly on the floor. "Get out, both of you," I shouted. The thermos struck Jacob's back. He turned and locked eyes with me, a deadly glare in his stare. In the next moment, he lifted Eva in his arms and carried her away. I watched as they vanished from the ward's doorway. Then I called John. "If those 50% shares aren't transferred to my name by today, just prepare for your beloved illegitimate daughter to marry that frail, dying man from the Hatchet family." "No, Lilianna. I'll transfer them immediately." I ended the call and started searching online for details about the Hatchet family. Both the Caide and Hatchet families belong to Boston's elite society, but the Caide family is relatively insignificant compared to the influential Hatchet family. It's rumored that the Hatchet family has ties to both legal and illegal spheres. Although they are part of Boston's social circle, most Hatchet family members have been living abroad for many years. Long ago, a casual comment by the ancestors of both families led to a baby betrothal between their children. The daughter of the Caide family was destined to marry the Hatchet family's second son. To John, aligning with the powerful Hatchet family an enticing prospect, so he had decided early on that Eva would be the one to marry into the Hatchet family. In recent years, word spread that the health of the second son of the Hatchet family was declining. Initially, people didn't pay much attention, but after several emergency nighttime interventions, it became clear that Ronald Hatchet, the second son, was nearing death. When John heard, he couldn't bring himself to let Eva marry into the Hatchet family only to become a widow. So he turned his attention to me, and it happened that I had my own reasons to agree. 2 hours later, John called me. "Lilianna, the Hatchet family has scheduled your wedding. Their private plane will pick you up tomorrow," he said, his voice steady and without hesitation. I listened quietly and responded, "Okay." As night descended, Jacob returned to the hospital ward. "Why are you here?" I asked, noting his composed demeanor. "I'm your secretary," he replied. I scoffed. "Oh, so you remember you're my secretary. Where were you when I needed help earlier?" Jacob swallowed hard. Ms. Eva was upset and crying. It wasn't safe for her to go home alone. If my hands weren't bandaged, I might have clapped for him. Such touching devotion. I gazed at him, my eyes growing teary and red. "Jacob, while you were gone, I prepared a gift for you." Jacob seemed a bit taken aback. "You don't have to do this. I also got rid of everything I ever gave you?" I interrupted him. I clenched my jaw, determined not to let the tears spill. For a moment, panic flickered across his features. "Are you crying?" he asked, as if the idea was impossible. "No way. You're so strong and feisty. How could you cry?" I averted my gaze and discreetly wiped my tears away. My heart was in agony. When Eva cried, he would move heaven and earth for her. But when I shed tears, it was beyond belief. This was the man I had loved wholeheartedly for 3 years. I drew in a steadying breath, turned to him, and spoke with a calm detachment. "You can leave. Your gift will arrive shortly." Jacob's hands, hanging at his sides, shook slightly. "Then get some good rest. I'll visit you tomorrow," he said, turning away. His tall frame remained as straight as it had been on the day of the interview 3 years ago. However, my perspective had completely changed. I now understood that he appeared fair outwardly, but was utterly corrupt within. He was rotten to the core. Thankfully, tomorrow I would finally leave this place that had taken my mother and tormented me for years. Due to my injuries, 3 private doctors were arranged on the Hatchet family's private plane. I had someone bring my visa and passport last night. With the Hatchet family's assistance, I passed through security without any issues. Before boarding the plane, I took a final glance at this familiar yet burdensome place. I vowed never to return. Even if my future husband were a dying invalid, I wouldn't feel any nostalgia for it. After Ronald passed away, I planned to travel the world and fulfill my mother's unrealized dream with my funds. After leaving the hospital, Jacob returned to his villa in the Boston suburbs. He was unable to sleep all night. As dawn began to break, he decided not to force himself to rest and got up to move around. For a reason he couldn't explain, he walked into the empty room. Pushing the door open, he discovered it filled with gift boxes and bags of different sizes. Among them were hand-knitted woolen dolls with his name on them. Back then, Lilianna had wrapped her arms around his waist, preventing him from retreating, and asked if he thought the dolls were cute. He had replied coldly that they were ugly. Lilianna didn't get upset. Instead, she playfully tapped his head with a doll and said, "Who says that? Our little Jacob is clearly very cute." There were also cufflinks, ties, and shirts from various luxury brands. She always believed he wasn't wealthy, so she would take him to luxury stores and shower him with fancy outfits. She would adjust the ties she had knitted herself and lead him to the fitting mirror, proudly raising her head while asking him, "Do you think this looks good?" He avoided meeting her teasing gaze in the mirror and disset it as dull. She had climbed all 999 steps of the church to plead for a lucky charm when he was ill. Once he recovered, she insisted he carry the charm with him out of concern. Jacob was aware that Lilianna didn't typically believe in such things. Her skepticism stemmed from her mother not receiving her due. Yet when he fell ill, Lilianna clung to faith fervently. Unfortunately, he had never actually worn that charm. Just recently, Lilianna had even checked his collar to see if he had it on. When her fingers found his bare chest, a hint of sadness flickered in her eyes, but she still smiled and said, "Even if you're not wearing it, I got to feel your muscles, so it's not a total loss." For the first time, Jacob realized how often he had disappointed Lilianna. Yet Lilianna never seemed truly upset with him. Even when she got jealous and threw a tantrum because he favored Eva, she would calm down by the next day. Reflecting on this, Jacob felt a wave of guilt. "Never mind. I'll go get her favorite sandwich and take it to the hospital," he decided. The place was quite a distance away, and though Lilianna had mentioned it several times, he had never gone there before. Bringing her the sandwich today would surely make her happy. He considered it a way to make it up to her. With this thought, Jacob grabbed his car keys, feeling a sense of relief and happiness. He pictured Liliana's surprised expression when she saw the sandwich. Without realizing it, he pressed the accelerator and drove faster. The round trip took quite a while, and by the time he reached the hospital, it was nearly noon. After parking his car and taking the elevator to the upper floor, he felt a sudden wave of excitement. The VIP ward's corridor was incredibly quiet, and Jacob could almost hear his own heartbeat. He knocked softly on the ward door, but got no reply. Jacob frowned slightly. Could she still be asleep? Lilianna rarely slept in. He gently pushed the door open and stepped inside, only to find the bed empty. His frown deepened. He wondered aloud, strange. With such serious injuries, where could she have gone? A feeling of unease began to grow inside him. He turned around, left the room, stopped a passing nurse, and inquired about Lilianna's whereabouts. The nurse's eyes brightened. "You must be Mr. Caide, correct?" Jacob nodded. "Please follow me. Ms. Caide has left a gift for you." Jacob trailed behind the nurse, feeling dazed. However, after a few steps, he sensed something was off. He hurried forward and halted the nurse. "I don't want any gifts. Just tell me where Lilianna is," he demanded. The nurse's face turned displeased as she pushed Jacob's hand away. "Mr. Caide, you're being impolite. I can't understand how someone as well-mannered as Miss Caide could be fond of someone like you." Jacob was taken aback. He had always been a prodigy and had never been addressed in such a manner. But at that moment, he couldn't be bothered by it. All he wanted was to know Lilianna's whereabouts, as she was seriously injured. The nurse turned around and retrieved a document bag from the drawer of the work table. "This is from Ms. Lilianna for you." Jacob glanced at the document envelope, and a sudden, sharp headache struck him. Lilianna had given him many gifts before, all beautifully wrapped in gift boxes. What could possibly be inside this envelope? A strong sense of unease gripped his heart. He took the envelope and opened it. A sheet of A4 paper fluttered to the ground, and Jacob caught it. Upon reading the document's title, his heart sank. The sandwich he was holding fell to the floor. Certificate of dismissal. Due to Jacob's inability to perform his duties and having placed General Manager Lilianna in dangerous situations multiple times, he is hereby dismissed. The black signature was Lilianna's, the one he knew so well. It was stamped with the group's official seal. A jolt, like a lightning strike, hit Jacob as he read the words on the paper repeatedly. He shook with disbelief as he finally accepted the truth. Lilianna no longer wanted him, not as her secretary, nor as the person she loved. The plane touched down effortlessly on the Hatchet family's helipad.
Salute cannons fired in celebration.
The Hatchet household staff formed two lines, bowing slightly in unison. "Welcome home, Miss Lilianna," they said. Caleb Hatchet, Ronald's eldest brother and the current head of the family, stepped forward with the group to present flowers and extend their welcome. However, his demeanor shifted to a stern one when he noticed the bandages covering my body. His voice grew icy. "Someone dared to harm a member of the Hatchet family," he said. I felt a warmth in my heart. Since my mother passed, no one has really cared about my well-being. If I erred in a business matter, John would yell at me, beat me, and confine me. Even after I was kidnapped and injured, John never visited me. Jacob gave me a cold sneer to appease Eva, who had intentionally hurt me. Meanwhile, across the ocean, an unfamiliar man expressed concern for me. At that moment, I vowed to take good care of his younger brother, Ronald. Regardless of how long he would live, I promised to be by his side. I gently asked, "Caleb, where is Ronald? I want to see him." Caleb was momentarily surprised, but then his eyes lit up with a smile. "You truly live up to your reputation. You are as kind-hearted and caring as the woman Ronald has wanted to marry for so many years." I felt puzzled. The woman he had wanted to marry for so long? But before I could inquire further, Caleb had the household staff and private doctor take me to rest. He told me that after I got a good night's sleep, he would take me to meet Ronald. He laughed heartily, saying, "Otherwise, if Ronald saw you like this, he'd definitely feel sorry for you." I agreed without hesitation. To my surprise, my room was decorated just the way I liked it. Even the clothes in the wardrobe were perfectly suited to my size and style. The decision for me to marry into the Hatchet family instead of Eva was made impulsively. Eva's taste was quite different from mine, yet everything here seemed so well prepared. I couldn't help but be curious about Ronald, the second leader of the Hatchet family. I ended up sleeping for an entire day and night. When I woke up, the swelling from my wound had gone down significantly. After freshening up, I slipped into a red dress, chosen for its association with good fortune and festivity. The family's nanny led me outside. From a distance, I noticed a figure seated in a wee on the lawn. He appeared frail and solitary, and I assumed it was Ronald. As I approached, both of us seemed captivated by one another. Despite his frail condition, his underlying handsomeness was evident. His complexion was as fair as snow, and his features shone like the morning star. Ronald smiled warmly and addressed me by name. Lilianna, thank you for coming all this way to see me. I shook my head and replied, it's not trouble at all. The maid discreetly departed, leaving us alone. With a gentle smile, he asked, are you afraid of marrying someone who is near death? I wasn't certain whether it was the comforting smile in his eyes or the soothing depth of his voice that affected me. Suddenly, I realized that marrying him wouldn't be a hardship. I shook my head. I'm not scared. You and Caleb are both kind people. He chuckled. You're too generous. After just a few meetings with me and my older brother, you believe we're good people? I returned his smile. Sometimes, even knowing someone for a long time doesn't reveal if they're good or bad. But with others, you can sense it immediately. He smiled and gently patted my head as I knelt beside him. You're silly, he continued, but I don't want you to marry me and end up alone later. I was taken aback. If he didn't want me to marry him, why was I brought here? Ronald explained that he wasn't interested in getting a marriage certificate with me. Instead, he just wanted us to have a wedding so he wouldn't have any regrets before he passed away. A mischievous glint appeared in his eyes, perhaps thinking I was unaware of this. Lilianna, I've been fond of you for 3 years. From Ronald's recollections, I pieced together the story of my bold act at a dinner party 3 years ago. A portly man with a large head made an inappropriate move toward a girl, and I noticed it. Instinctively, I emptied my glass of wine onto his face. The man then threatened to cut ties with the Caide family, but I stood my ground and refused to apologize. It was a minor incident that I would have forgotten if Ronald hadn't brought it up. Unbeknownst to me, he had been there, quietly observing everything. If your father insists on marrying your stepsister into the family this year, I'll call off the engagement, Ronald said earnestly, looking directly at me. I never thought I would have the chance to wait for you, Lilianna. The overwhelming rush of love hit me unexpectedly. Ronald explained that because it was me who came, he couldn't keep postponing any longer. He looked a bit sad. Let's have a wedding without the marriage certificate. You'll inherit half of my assets as my wife. Is that all right? His eyes were so genuine, and his thoughtfulness so complete that I couldn't say no. The wedding preparations began smoothly. The Hatchett family's wealth and influence made it easy to organize a private ceremony. Everything, from the wedding dress to the decoration of the venue, came from top international brands. On the wedding day, Caleb's eyes were filled with tears as he watched Ronald and me slowly enter the church. The pastor earnestly inquired if we were ready to remain together through life's challenges, in both sickness and health, and never part from one another. As soon as I said, I do, someone unexpectedly burst into the church. It was Jacob. He appeared weary from travel and confidently walked inside. I disagree, he declared, stepping forward and taking my hand firmly. Lilianna, I've come to take you away. Don't marry this dying man. Although the wedding was a small affair, Jacob's sudden interruption caused a significant disturbance. Caleb glared at Jacob with intensity and furiously exclaimed, Who is this lunatic? How dare you disrupt a Hatchett family wedding? Instantly, 2 lines of bodyguards intervened, restraining Jacob securely. His head was pressed against the ground, yet he continued to struggle and shout desperately. Lilianna, I'm the one you love the most. How could you marry someone else? He cried. Look at what I'm wearing, the clothes, and this lucky charm you gave me. His irrational behavior was giving me a headache. Before I could respond, Ronald gently squeezed my hand. Though the gesture was soft, his voice was icy. He calmly asked, Lilianna, is this the person who harassed you back in the country? Despite his composed tone, there was a terrifying power beneath it, as if he could strip someone of their very being. Since arriving at Hatchett Manor, this was the first time I felt the overwhelming and invisible force radiating from the second leader of the Hatchett family. He gestured to the bodyguards. Teach him a lesson, but make sure he survives, he instructed. Jacob was forcibly removed, his cries of agony echoing faintly in the background of the wedding like a distant soundtrack. The ceremony carried on. This time, I didn't hesitate when I said, "I do." Ronald embraced me warmly. "Lilianna, my dream has finally come true. You are now my wife." I returned his hug and whispered in his ear, "I am truly willing." Ronald's body momentarily tensed. He softly kissed my cheek. The day after the wedding, Ronald took me to visit Jacob. In the pitch-dark room, the lights flickered on as we entered. Jacob, chained to the iron rack, recoiled and stepped back, unaccustomed to the sudden brightness. When he realized it was me, he trembled and called out my name. "Lilianna, will you come back with me? I'm actually from a well-known family. Let's return together and get married, all right? Didn't you once want me to marry you more than anything?" I shook my head with a faint smile and replied, "No." Jacob's expression became frozen.
Why?
"Do you prefer that disabled man in a wheelchair?" I stepped closer to him. Jacob's smile returned, but with all the wounds on his face, it looked rather absurd. "Lilianna, I know deep down you still love me the most." I cut him off with a slap. "Who gave you the right to insult my husband in my presence?" I had always been bold and free, spirited since childhood. Because of my feelings for Jacob over the past 3 years, I almost lost myself. But since coming here, with Ronald's patience and support, I have slowly rediscovered the old Lilianna. Ronald's voice echoed faintly, carrying the weight of a ruler from the underworld. "Jacob, does being from the Goof family even matter? If you die here today, do you really think your father will clash with the Hatchet family over an illegitimate son abandoned overseas?" Jacob and I were both shocked upon hearing this revelation. "How do you know?" Jacob's voice faded. It was the first time I learned about this twist in his identity. I let out a cold sneer. "Jacob, no wonder you and Eva get along. An illegitimate daughter and an illegitimate son. A perfect pair." "No, Lilianna." Jacob shook his head desperately. "I don't like Eva anymore. I was fooled by her innocent act. Please come back to me. Let's be together again, okay?" His voice was almost begging. But then, Ronald's knife landed on Jacob's shoulder with precision. Ronald's face remained calm, resembling a fearsome figure in the dim room. "Jacob, who gave you the nerve to desire my wife in front of me?" Jacob was in such agony that he couldn't even muster the strength to cry out. I lost interest and shoved Ronald aside. As we emerged into the sunlight, my view broadened. Ronald's demeanor softened back to its usual gentleness. "Lilianna, do you know why I let him live?" he asked. "So, you could have your own revenge," I replied. "Whatever he did to you, you can repay him twofold." I grinned. "He slapped me 100 times. I want to return the favor," I said. "That's no issue," he assured me. "But my hands will hurt if I do it myself," I pointed out. "Then I'll arrange for someone else to do it," he offered. 100 slaps a day. Let's start with 10 days. I smiled quietly. Perhaps spending time with the Hatchet brothers had made me this composed. However, I had no desire to continue any dealings with Jacob. Ronald wasn't in good health, and I didn't want him to stress. 10 days later, I suggested he release Jacob. Considering the significant power difference between the Hatchet family and the Caide family, even if Jacob returned, he wouldn't be a threat to the Hatchets. In fact, having offended the Hatchet family, Jacob might not even have the opportunity to be recognized as an illegitimate son anymore. However, that very night, an explosion occurred in the darkroom. Before attempting to stop the wedding, Jacob had reached out to the Caide family members in the country. Howard Caide's only legitimate son had been attacked and killed during an overseas business negotiation. This led to the retrieval of the illegitimate son, who had been sent abroad as a child, allowing him to return to the family and reclaim his heritage. Currently, the Caide family has only one heir. Though he can't prevent Jacob from attempting to disrupt the wedding, he will do all he can to ensure Jacob returns safely. The family's dignity is at stake, leaving him no choice but to confront the issue. Jacob exploited this situation, boldly causing a scene during the wedding. After being rescued by mercenaries hired by the Caide family, Jacob managed to sneak into my room with his accomplices. He used knockout drugs to cover my mouth and nose, trying to abduct me amidst the chaos. Although I lost control of my body, my mind remained alert. I distinctly felt myself being lifted and moved. I struggled to stay conscious. As we crossed the lawn, I fought to escape his hold. I raised the alarm and crawled forward, but Jacob was relentless in his pursuit. The Hatchet brothers had been alerted, and the alarm blared deafeningly. Jacob's expression shifted, and he quickly directed the mercenaries, "Initiate Plan B." Before I could respond, several bombs were launched. A mushroom cloud rose, and flames engulfed the sky, separating me from the Caide brothers. I screamed, shouted, and struck Jacob, demanding my release. I feared for Ronald, worried he'd be hurt in the fire due to his limited mobility. Yet Jacob held me firmly, his face a mix of restraint and madness. "Lilianna, come with me. Ronald will soon perish in this fire." I shook my head, hitting him and pleading. I begged him to save Ronald. He was so kind, and we hadn't had the chance to be happy yet. My words seemed to annoy Jacob. "Lilianna, you can't plead with me on behalf of another man." He commanded the launch of 3 more bombs. The mercenary leader attempted to reason with him, warning, "If we don't leave now, it might be too late." Jacob appeared to ignore him, speaking frantically in my ear like a madman. "Lilianna, when you left, I thought I wouldn't care, but I realized I couldn't handle it. I've revisited the gifts you gave me countless times, and thoughts of you consume me every day. Even though Eva is with me, I feel nothing for her. It turns out I've been in love with you for a long time. Please be reasonable and come back with me." I looked at him with determination and anger. "You're dreaming. I don't love you anymore." "No, you're just upset with me. You know it was me who kidnapped you, right? That's why you're mad. I was wrong. I made a mistake. Please come back with me." Jacob was desperate as he tried to take me away. Out of nowhere, a gust of wind swept by my side. Without thinking, I glanced up to see a fleet of helicopters bearing New Zealand's national emblem hovering over Hatchet Manor. Numerous soldiers in uniform were parachuting down. Just before I lost consciousness, I caught sight of Ronald in his wheelchair, emerging through the dense fog and flames, racing toward me. I closed my eyes with a peaceful smile, comforted by the thought, "It's wonderful, Ronald. You're still alive." Jacob was bundled up by the Hatchet brothers and sent back to the countryside. Rumor had it that both his legs were broken. Howard wanted this sole heir to survive, but he was also determined to ensure the survival of the entire Caide family. I had forgotten that, even though the Hatchet family had kept a low profile recently, they still held significant influence within the underworld's dark web. When Ronald informed me of all this, he was nonchalantly swiping on a tablet. I no longer cared about Jacob's fate, so I asked him out of curiosity what he was doing. Ronald handed me the tablet and said, "I've shorted the Caide group." I was taken aback. "The Caide family? My family?" Ronald nodded, smiling. I exclaimed, "What about the shares I worked so hard to secure? Are they gone too?" Ronald's smile widened. "I sold your shares at a high price before shorting them," he explained. Caleb, standing beside us, chuckled. "Lilianna, you have no idea. My younger brother here is the most skilled trader in the world." I was filled with admiration. For the first time, I grasped the meaning of the saying, "In the midst of chatting and laughing, the powerful enemy is reduced to ashes." Ronald handed me a glass of water to help me calm down. "The Caide family has gone bankrupt and is now saddled with enormous debts. Your deceitful father and stepsister are out on the streets, pursued by debt collectors and with no place to settle down," he informed me. He also mentioned that he had invested my money wisely, securing a prosperous and carefree future for me. As I listened to him give instructions, my heart felt heavy. Ronald was organizing his affairs before his passing, taking care of things for me. But I no longer wanted him to die. He saw the fear, sadness, and hesitation in my eyes and gently pulled me close. "Don't worry. I still have some time left," he reassured me. Tears filled my eyes and began to fall. That evening, I went to see Caleb and asked if there was truly no cure for Ronald's illness. Caleb shook his head, a rare sadness in the eyes of someone usually indifferent to life's ups and downs. "The best we can do is make the most of the time we have with him," he said, looking at me. "I can't express how thankful I am that you've come. Since your arrival, his condition has improved." He then handed me a black card. "I intended to give this to you later, but with it, you can seek help from the Hatchet family anywhere in the world. Consider this my way of repaying you." With shaky hands, I accepted it, feeling a heavy weight press on my heart. Whether or not I possessed this card, my love for Ronald had already been profound. Whoever I loved, I gave them my entire heart, just as I had done with Jacob before, and as I did with Ronald. Upon leaving Caleb's room, I found Ronald waiting at the door. "How did you know I was here?" I asked. "When you cared, you just knew," Ronald replied with a smile. My heart ached, yet I was filled with an unexpected surge of courage. So, what if our time together was limited? What if a miracle occurred? Regardless of how much time we had left, I wanted to cherish every day with him. 3 months later, Ronald passed away and chose to be buried at sea. I took his ashes and set off on a journey around the world. At each new sea I visited, I scattered a part of his ashes. Together, our footprints spanned across the globe. 5 years on, I decided to move back to New Zealand and make it my home. This was the place where we had shared the most time together. The lush green fields extended endlessly. An airplane soared above, gradually disappearing into the horizon. As I watched it vanish, I smiled and wondered, what was on Ronald's mind when he waited for me after bringing me here back then?
The end.
Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos, hit the subscribe button.